Yanagi versus Lighter, who offers more investment value for your account if you are spending your premium resources today? You want to know. You want to get the best value for today and onwards as well. That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Many sections, and as with all of these videos on the channel, I promise you we'll remain super unbiased, logical comparison. If you want my personal bias, I'll leave it right at the end, as with all of these videos. But let's get into it, shall we? Current value. Now, if you've seen the Lighter team composition videos, I'll be really honest with you guys and tell you, currently Lighter's team compositions are pretty much restricted in terms of his best teams if you have Soldier 11 or do you not have Soldier 11 in the current game state. When in future other characters like Miyabi come about, definitely great as well. If you have Alan, you must be like a day one player as well. So a lot of new players don't have a lot of use for Lighter if you do not have Soldier 11, unless of course in future. But future section, we'll talk about it in a bit. Lighter is not a very great character in the current game state. If you want him to immediately add value today, chances are Yanagi is a little bit better, and that's my honest opinion in the current game state. However, if you don't mind just using him as just a stun unit and you don't have any other stun characters, he can function very well as a lot of stun characters. The reason why I say he's restrictive is because he has ice and fire, damage buffing, and resistance shredding, which is very, very niche. Only in two particular team compositions does it benefit. So outside of fire and ice, without this Song of Fire and Ice, you probably will struggle in a lot of team compositions. You're much better running like Ting Yi as a good alternative. That's just the comparison. Yanagi, on the other hand, she is at her all-time high, right? Very, very popular. Anomaly is super, super meta in the game. Everything seems to buff disorder damage for some sort of reason in the Shui defense, whatever not. Everything is benefiting disorder, anomaly. No surprise because they have released back-to-back Jane Doe, Bernice, now Yanagi, and eventually Miyabi is also coming out, all anomaly. Yanagi's Stong's all-time high. You're buying into a very, very nice hype for Yanagi. Definitely very useful in the current meta. She has a lot of teams going for her, as we talked about on our teams video already. And chances are, if you got Yanagi already, because she has been out for a couple of moments, you know that she is actually quite flexible to play. You can play her into shock teams with, for example, like Rina, for example, like Ting Yi, mono shock teams, like mono single element, and as well as you can run like double anomaly with Bernice, with some extent like Jane Doe, and a more ambitious one in future as well. It maybe might even be a triple anomaly with Miyabi, Bernice, Yanagi, who knows. All these are very exciting things for the future that we have talked about already a lot on the channel, but current value, Yanagi is definitely way ahead. I have to give this category a win to Yanagi in the current game state. If you are a person planning to pull for immediate account value, Yanagi offers you tons more value than Lighter. However, that is not all. Let's do a quick juxtapose this with the future, and this is where Lighter actually starts to shine a little bit more, but so does Yanagi, to be really honest. Lighter's team compositions in the current game state are very restrictive. However, his future is what makes him bright. He plays into fire and ice teams because of his damage buffing and ice resistance shredding. In the game right now, we have no A rank ice, no A rank fire DPSs in the game, which is kinda insane, right? Don't you think? The only option that we have for ice and fire right now is Soldier 11 and Alan. So very restrictive. Eventually, we will have to have a fire limited character coming into the game, and that's when Lighter Stongs will rise. He is a very, very specific character, very niche character for that role as well. I like Lighter a lot in the future. Does scale very nicely since Miyabi is coming out as well, so you get a lot more ice exposure there. If you wanted to buff the ice damage or rest shred the ice, Miyabi will likely like Lighter quite a bit too, in terms of those of you who are planning for the future. On the flip side, Yanagi, the question really then beckons is, do you think the run in Yanagi's anomaly cycle will come to an end, or will it continue with after Miyabi? Do you think after Miyabi they're going to stop doing anomaly altogether and switch over to like crit and stuff like that because there's already so many anomaly characters? If that is your thought process, that they are no longer going to favor anomaly, the future for Yanagi looks less bright. If you believe that this game is really based on anomaly, everything is going to be centered around anomaly and disorder, then Yanagi is likely going to continue to be a lot very, very attractive since she provides a lot of unique applications. She buffs the damage of disorder as well. So triple anomaly teams likely going to like this Yanagi in a core team composition. So depending on your preference, my personal take, and that's where we compare the odds, the probability, because this is a probability game, right? Chances are they aren't going to ditch anomaly in the dirt after having released one of their most popular characters of her. Likely Anomaly is going to stay for a long term, and the key upside is a triple Anomaly team, because disorder becomes very important in a triple Anomaly team, and Yanagi buffs disorder, making her very, very attractive going into the future for triple Anomaly teams. We talked about more triple Anomaly teams on the channel very early on already when Bernice first came out, and even in the Yanagi teams video. You can check those videos out for more information if you're more excited about triple Anomaly. I shall not go more details here, but that is the main upside that I think Yanagi has. Other than that, we are going to get more Anomaly characters. The question is, will they compete with her? No one really knows right now. So in my opinion, comparing both of them, near term, Yanagi does seem to benefit a little bit more, because Yanagi has upside straight away from another Anomaly character coming in the game and a potential triple Anomaly function, because now we have a lot of Anomaly characters able to run triple Anomaly. Lighter, on the other hand, in the near future, has only Miyabi, but in the longer run, the medium to long term, Lighter outperforms, because we are going to get eventually fire characters coming into the game, and likely, maybe perhaps Anomaly will be very, very crowded in the distant medium to long term already. So that is a huge differentiating factor between both of them. I will have to give it a draw. Near to medium term, Yanagi. Medium term is like kind of tight. Towards the later on we go in the game, I think Lighter is likely going to outstay a little bit more. He's going to outperform a little bit more as we have more fire characters coming to the game. Talking about current, future, for your team, benefiting your team is great and all, but we also want to know alternatives. Truth be told, if they are very common what they do in their characters, you can find it elsewhere. The best recommendation would probably be not to spend your resources, save it for more useful characters. We still don't even have a 5-star support that's coming out, 5-star limited support, which is likely great, especially if you're trying to save. So both of them, what are their alternatives? Yanagi mainly competes with characters that are electric on-field DPSs. For example, Haramosu, whatever that guy's name exactly is. Still getting a trick to that. But electric lightning DPSs likely will compete with Yanagi, because Yanagi can be played on field. At the same time, she also competes with, let me just put Anton here as a proxy. On the flip side, you also have characters, for example, like Bernice, who take on Anomaly roles in the same team. She might compete, especially if we have more Bernices that are very good off-field. They might compete more with Yanagi as well. So it becomes a little bit more crowded of a space if you have more units. But generally speaking, the thing that makes her most unique is her disorder buffing, which is very, very unique because she's a supportive disorder buffer in that sense. Very, very special, and right now there's no alternatives to that. Other than that, she is very, very unique in her own. No other element to address lightning right now, electric right now. So I think alternatives for Yanagi in the current game state, very few. Next patch, once Harumasa comes out, very different already. She will likely have been not the prime electric main DPS that we seek. Lighter, on the other hand, now Lighter's comparisons is where he actually starts to shine, because Collider, Lycan are kind of like his quote-unquote lesser counterparts. Because Lycan, sure, he does like some kind of rest threat. Collider is excellent in fire teams as well, but Lighter is good in both. The only thing that Lycan has over Lighter is that Lycan is ice element, Lighter is fire element, meaning that you will, no matter what, never be playing mono ice in an ice focused team. For better or for worse. But he is still a very significant upgrade on these two characters and plays into both the team compositions that you will play both of them. If you ever felt that you wanted Collider, felt that you needed a Lycan, Lighter is a very, very solid pick, and in my opinion, an upgrade to both of them as well. The main question and the main comparison is two characters. One is Qingyi, and to a large extent, two is impact build, stun proxy Caesar. If you are looking at stun specific, Lighter is extremely agile. He's very, very good at building up stun, and he's excellent at buffing fire and ice teams. So in the niche that he fights in, ice and fire, and specifically stun, he will outperform Caesar tremendously unless you need that big chunky shield. And Qingyi, on the other hand, Qingyi is more generalistic. She fits into more team compositions. And to be honest, all like you can play two of them in the same team because they buff different ones. One buffs like damage bonuses, one buff elemental damage bonuses, one rest shreds enemies, one gives shield, one increases the stun multipliers. So even though they might be alternatives, you can actually play both of them together in the same team compositions. It will work still because they buff differently. But at the end of the day, I think Lighter outperforms in specifically ice and fire based teams. Anything else you would want to use Qingyi or Caesar for the most part. And that is my honest comparison between both of them. For alternatives, if you have, because I know a lot of the meta alternatives right now in the game is S rank limited, so not everyone has like Qingyi, not everyone pulled Caesar, but chances are maybe you have like certain character kits. So I'll give this a tie as well. I think that Lighter is really dependent whether you have characters like Qingyi already who's like super versatile. Do you already have Caesar? Do you need an extra Lighter? Overall, in comparison, I think Yanagi's offering is a little bit rarer right now, but Lighter is definitely best in class for fire as well as ice. That is for sure, without a doubt, especially if you're playing those teams. Unfortunately, current game state, not too popular. That's what's restricting me from rating him higher. If fire and ice was super meta, I'll have to give it to Lighter, but for now, not really. Last but not least, of course, or second last rather, is the potential section. Now, potential section is talking about the future that is what we see. At the same time, it also turns to Hoyoverse and looks to them and what they could potentially bring into the game. Now, we know that Yanagi, Miyabi is coming into the game. We know that Harumasa is coming into the game. Yanagi is likely going to be benefiting from Miyabi's arrival, but not as highly benefiting because she loses her role as a main DPS electric when Harumasa enters the game, whereas Lighter is going to benefit a lot from new characters entering the game. And Hoyoverse definitely will bring in fire eventually. We currently don't even have a fire limited DPS, and people that never thought that a character like Rena will even become relevant, in a similar sense, Lighter is one of those growing on you kind of characters. Right now, the meta is like ice or like anomaly, physical, maybe like fire and a little bit on electric, but eventually we'll switch back to ice as a meta, fire as even more meta when you have on-field DPS that they want to sell. Lighter is going to play in those two fields very, very well, and outside of that, he still is a decent stunner altogether. This is interesting because Lighter actually tells me that's how Hoyoverse plans to address the game in the future. They're going to introduce more niche characters that fulfill specific roles, especially in the stun category, because they don't want just one stunner that does everything. Then you would sell less characters. So if you create like one for Lighter, they might have another character one day that buffs, let's say, fire and aether, and then one character that buffs like ice and aether, one character that buffs, let's say, electric and fire, for example. So all these unique combinations make it a much more interesting setup for a lot of people to choose, so they can sell you more characters. All in all, in terms of potential, what they want to do, you already have Section 6 teams that are out. You already have Sons of Caledon's teams that are already out. So they don't have the lore buff of new characters coming into the game. Overall, I think the difference is Anomaly versus more fire and more ice. And in my opinion, I think Lighter comes out slightly ahead in terms of what Hoyoverse will do in the slightly longer term, which is really bring in more fire DPSs into the game. And whether it's Anomaly, whether it's attack, a stun character will always benefit a bit more. So I have to give it to Lighter. Last but not least, of course, that I want to talk about before I share with you my own personal bias is the free-to-play potential of these characters. It's a very different thing when we are talking about M6 Yanagi, which we did comparison of on the channel as well. We compared like M0, M2, M6, and of course a base copy Yanagi, and similarly for Lighter as well. Both of these two characters are great characters. Yanagi or Stun and Anomaly characters have excellent free-to-play W engines available. You have Rainforest Gourmet, you have Precious Fossilized Core, you have Weeping Gemini, and blah blah blah. Even the Battle Pass one is also decent for both Stun as well as Anomaly, but it's not even necessary. And these two characters function very, very nicely already at M0. Granted, Yanagi may get more dashes and stuff with M2, but it's again not critical. Between the both of them, if you talk about building them, their stun characters are easy in terms of resource intensity to get their resources right. You just need like nice main stats. Everything else is a plus. Similarly for Anomaly proficiency characters, you just need to get the sets right. You need to get the main stat right. Everything else will come with time. It's not a huge rush like crit rate, crit damage and stuff like that. So not too resource intensive. A lot of free to play options for both of them. But the largest question is the teams that they play into. Yanagi requires you to have spent a lot of resources recently on characters. You need to pull Yanagi, skip rest one patch for Lighter, pull Miyabi, or previously you have put Bernice and then Yanagi back to back and stuff like that. Yanagi teams tend to be a bit more expensive, and to get her like really going really quickly into all the upside positive trends that we talked about in this video already. So unless you are really lucky getting everything early, there aren't too many A rank options that are available to a lot of people other than like Piper, unless you got lucky with Grace, who is unfortunately the same element as Yanagi. Anomaly teams is one of the premium teams right now. Quite expensive, and you need to win quite a lot of 50-50s or spend money to get a lot of the characters. Lighter, on the other hand, plays into a lot cheaper alternatives. You just need one character, a stun character, and eventually a fire might come up, an ice might come up that you like, maybe a rerun for Ellen as well. And all these can take time. You have a long time to plan, long time to rest as well. Eventually, Miyabi will get her rerun too. And I think Lighter is a lot cheaper as an alternative between the both of them. Last but not least, of course, and this category I'll give a win to Lighter. And as always, last part here, I want to talk about my own personal bias. Between the two of them is a very tricky choice. But my thought is like this. For those of you who are in the near term looking for a Miyabi character, I think that the character that goes a longer way perhaps would be a character like Lighter, since he's a bit niche in that sense, but he does value add to a lot of team compositions. You can play him and swap him out with fire. And Miyabi, perhaps if you want to play with other Anomaly characters, they will likely sell you more Anomaly characters in future. Yanagi is also very decent for her. So I would say Miyabi Wanters are a little bit trickier. It's really a tough comparison. I will have to go with my heart. I think that the stun character will likely be a better investment over a long period of time if you are a Miyabi Wanter. And for those of you who are Anomaly players, I think Yanagi offers a lot of value, especially the triple disorder function. So if I were a Miyabi lover, probably I will go a little bit more for Lighter, tending towards more for Lighter. If I were to be an Anomaly player, Yanagi, if I only want to like play into Anomaly teams, I will shift more towards Yanagi because triple disorder, triple Anomaly is very enticing. However, if I don't care twats about Anomaly, maybe you are Soldier 11 player, or perhaps you're looking forward to other characters in future, you just don't care about Anomaly, Lighter is the way to go, much better. My only downside is, why is he so niche? If only he can buff like general elemental bonus across the board and ice and rest shred everything, then he's going to be a clear winner. But it's because of his nicheness, that's what limits me in rating him higher, given that we are spending a one entire limited character and the competition with Qingyi is quite tough. But that's for another video, Qingyi versus Lighter. If you found this video helpful, like, comment and subscribe if you found it helpful, and we always do this every single patch. At this point, I highly recommend you check out these two other videos we have on the channel, which I think you might like. And thank you guys again so much for watching. See you in the next video.